Hello and welcome to Genre Chat. Today we have an exciting author with us. This man has been with me and one of the people that I aspire to write like since I started writing 3 years ago. He's the one that gave me the kick in the butt and the encouragement to just write. His name is Cecil Murphey. Welcome, Cecil.
Hey, thank you. Glad to be with you, Carolyn.
Yeah, it's good to see you too. Tell us a little bit about yourself, Cecil.
Well, first call me Cease.
Yes, that's right, Cease. I like to call you Cease.
I'll call me Cease. I've just had a varied career. I have a double master's degree. I taught in public school a couple of years. I taught part-time in a college for 18 years. I was a pastor for 14 years. I was a missionary in Kenya for 6 years, been writing full time for 34 years. That makes me 119 years old. I did some of those at the same time.
Wow. And I know you have some best-selling books out there that, I mean, schools use them too. Can you tell us about those?
Well, you know some of them, I guess. I did 90 Minutes in Heaven with Don Piper. Actually, I did 4 books with him. I did 2 books with Dr. Ben Carson. That one's called 90 Minutes in Heaven. And I'm sorry, Ben Carson's book is called Gifted Hands. The second book, Ben Carson, is Think Big. All 3 of those books continue to sell quite well. Between the 3 of them, and I did Franklin Graham's autobiography, Rebel with a Cause. I don't get royalties on that, but between those books and some others, my agent figures I get between 20 and 25 million copies.
I've read mostly all those books and they're wonderful. But we're not talking about that today. We're talking about ghostwriting. Now, how did you get into this genre, Cease? How did you start ghostwriting?
Well, I knew what a ghostwriter was because I had a friend who was a ghostwriter, so I knew about it. And it didn't seem to be anything that would appeal to me. I got in touch with an editor in New York, I asked for permission to send him a manuscript, a novel. It was a wonderful, magnificent novel. And he said, sure. So about 2 weeks later, I got a phone call from him. He said, I'm coming to Atlanta. I want to have lunch with you. And it was this really fabulous restaurant. You know, I'm thinking how wonderful all this is going to be. So, and in those days, we only used hard copies, pre-computer. So he came in, we sat down, and he had the manuscript in his folder, and he kind of tossed it across the table, and he said, we don't want to publish your book. It's just too slow for today's audience. I thought, so why are you here?
Yeah.
He said, I want to tell you why I want to have lunch with you. He said, you understand people. You have this ability to get inside their heads and their hearts. Mm-hmm. So I would like you to become a ghostwriter for us. Well, I didn't hesitate very long before I said, of course, yes. Maybe 5 seconds. So I said, how do I do it? He said, you'll figure it out. I'm serious. That's all he ever told me. You'll figure it out. And I guess I did, because I wrote the first one, which was the autobiography of B.J. Thomas, the singer, Raindrops Keep Falling on My Head, Hooked on a Beat. I had a great experience. Then the second one was a guy named Stan Cottrell, who's a professional ultra-marathon runner. As a matter of fact, January 31st, he leaves from San Diego to run across the United States to end up in Washington, D.C. on Memorial Day. That worked out well, and so others came. So the end of the story is, as long as that man was at his publishing house, I did 35 books for them. So by then I was hooked. And I write a few books of my own, but they don't sell anywhere near what I do when I write for the celebrities or would-be celebrities.
That's wonderful, Cease. Now, you got into ghostwriting because somebody asked you. Now, what is the biggest lesson you've learned in ghostwriting?
Biggest lesson, I would say that I have to learn to listen. I'm going to tell you, by nature, I'm not a natural listener. I had to learn to listen. Not just listen, but to shut my mouth. You know, typical conversation with somebody, you tell a story about this awful thing that happened to you, and they have a bigger one.
Right. Yeah.
It's large tumor, well, they had one twice that size.
Yeah.
And I had to learn to refrain, to just listen. And also I discovered in doing this, not only did I hear what they were saying, but often I began to sense some things they weren't saying. So that leads me to the next thing is, for some reason, and I don't know how I do this, but people trust me. When they trust me, they open up. And I don't tell anybody what they say, by the way.
That's why they trust you, because they know you're not going to repeat it.
Okay, well, I didn't even know that. I just know they trust me. And invariably, I get one or two statements as I work with them. I've never told anybody just before, or I've never told anybody this before. I don't want it in the book, but I want you to know so you'll understand. That always touches me. The other thing is, I don't really know how to talk about this, but I don't know if it fits in the book or not. Well, usually when they give me either of those, that means this is something really powerful. And sometimes it doesn't go in the book not because of me, but sometimes they just don't want readers to know. But I feel like it's a sacred trust because they tell me, and trust me enough to tell me, and I've got secrets I've known for 20, right, 30 years. And I don't feel like it honorably as a Christian ever tell anybody what they are.
That is that's a precious thing, because people need to know they trust you as a ghostwriter to even want to even tell their story. Now, what kind of tools do you use? Do you have a pen and paper? Do you have a recorder? What do you use? And does it make the people feel comfortable, uncomfortable?
If I had to use a pen and paper, take notes, I would never be a writer of any kind. I took typing in high school and shorthand, by the way, which I still know some of it, because I kind of knew I wanted to be a writer, and I didn't know much about dictaphones and so on then. So I wanted to be able to get every word. I don't know how I figured all that out, but I did. And I started out in the typewriter days and the old recorders. So from the very beginning, when they had the reel-to-reel recorder, I took the reel-to-reel recorder with me, and then I finally got into cassettes, which was great, and now into digital recording. But I record every single word. And here's something. It's not just getting that information. Anybody can get that. The data's nothing. But sometimes when I'm listening to the tape, the digital recording, I hear things. May I give you a story?
Of course, please.
Okay. In 1983, 1984, Thomas Nelson hired me to do a book called Woman on Death Row. It's about a woman who had been convicted of poisoning one man. And then she became a believer while she was in jail waiting for trial, and confessed to 3 others, having a total of 4. And so I was recording her stuff, and we were talking away, and I said, "And what about your second husband? Because he died." I said, "You poisoned him too." No, she said, "It was natural cause." Now, see what she did with all of her victims. She put rat poison in their iced tea. Apparently it's very sweet, and the pain was awful. She said, no, he died of natural causes. And she went on and hurried on, and there was something about it just didn't seem right. So I got back to Atlanta where I live, and I must have listened to that 10 times. It was always just something that said, no, she's lying. And then I prayed, talked to God about it, and then about the 3rd day, it just hit me. I knew what it was. So I got She was on death row in Raleigh, North Carolina, and I got once a week to go see her before she was actually put to death. And when I got there, I said to her, her name is Velma Garfield. I said, Velma, tell me about your husband, your second husband again. So she said, yeah, and he died. So, and I said, no, he poisoned him. Her eyes wide and she started crying. She said, how did you know? I said, I don't know, except I know that you did it and I know why. And she said, she said, okay, why? I said, well, you're a registered practical nurse, and everybody else, you put their poison in their iced tea. In his case, you put it in his medicine.
Ooh.
And she started crying, I mean, really crying. And she said, I've confessed every sin to God, and I've tried to make my life an open book. This is the one thing I have never been able to talk about, and I have been praying for God to somehow let me confess this publicly so that I would not have this on my heart when I die.
Mm. Wow.
Now, I've had a few others, but that's the most dramatic.
Now, how much time do you spend with each person? Does it vary? And how do you communicate with these people? Phone, letters?
It's a good, I really don't like the telephone. And I think it's because, like talking to you, I can see your eyes. And I'm serious, there's something about the face that really draws me in. I don't do well on the telephone. I
understand. That's why when I have clients or whatever, I rather speak to them and see their reaction to what I'm saying than just being on the phone. So I totally understand that, Cece. I really do.
Okay, so what I do, particularly now, there are all kinds of people I've done books on, but let's talk about those who are celebrities like Dr. Ben Carson, who has already performed marvelous surgeries at Johns Hopkins, or Franklin Graham. So what I do is I say to them, there have been a lot of articles printed about you. I want you to send me the best one or two of them so I get a real sense of who you are. Well, Ben Carson sent me the Sunday supplement to the Detroit Free Press, and Franklin Graham, believe it or not, sent Gentleman's Quarterly. Seriously, and that article in GQ really captured him. And he sent me others, but those. So I tell you this because I wanted some kind of foundation. Of course, in those days, we didn't have the internet. Now with the internet, I read everything I can find about them on the internet. And they're famous, there's always plenty. Sometimes it's negative, but it doesn't matter. I want to know. Then I feel like I've got the background for it. When I meet with them, it used to take me weeks doing this. Now I know what I'm doing, and I say to them, I want 3 days of your total time. When you schedule anything else, you'll stop, like a toilet break or to eat. But that's it. I'm serious about this.
Well, you get to know a person when you spend 3 full days with them.
Yeah, and see, it's hard work for both of them. I'm going to tell you, it's not easy to listen. You have to focus and concentrate. So they start and they talk all day long. Sometimes they'll talk 10, 12 hours a day.
Wow.
Who normally does that? But we keep it going. And nearly always by the end of the second day, the beginning of the third day, we're through. But I like to keep that. And then I say to them at the end of the second day, typically, okay, I think I've got almost everything I want, probably everything. But what I want you to do is I want you to think about it. And tomorrow will be the addendum. Anything more that you feel like needs to go in the book that you just thought about. And almost every time they come back the next day saying, oh yes, I forgot. So then my work really starts. I say to them, okay, I'm going to write the proposal, which is the way it works today. Unless a publisher comes directly with me, write the proposal. Mm-hmm. And that takes maybe a month. I'm not doing that a little faster, but that's a lot of work because when I do the proposal, I think I've done 60% of the book. I have 3 sample chapters. I know where the book is going. I have an outline for the book. So sometimes it takes a month. longest it's ever taken is 6 weeks. I send him the first couple of chapters and other kinds of things he wanted in the proposal and let them critique it. Once I get their permission, I make the changes they want. I send it back to make sure they like the changes. When they give me that, then I say, okay, you're not going to hear from me for a while. And we send a proposal in. While the proposal is being considered, I'm working away. And assuming I already have the contract, which happened, publishers come to me, I need another 6 weeks to 2 months to finish the book. And of course, I tell them always from the beginning, nothing goes in this book if you don't want it. Just remember, it's your book, not mine. And if it makes you feel my intrusion, tell me we'll take it out. And that's essentially it.
How would somebody get involved in ghostwriting, Cecil?
My name is Cecil.
Cecil, I'm sorry. I'm trying to be professional, but
I didn't know who you're talking to. Okay.
We're friends, Cecil. I'm sorry. I'm just trying to be.
You'd be amazed at the people who think they can be a ghostwriter. As I said, anybody can get the data. It's that ability to really listen, and most people don't know how to do that. By the way, I have written a book on ghostwriting. This is kind of about self-defense. I wrote a book called Ghostwriting, the Murphy Method. Steve Lobby, who's a literary agent at one time, was my editor at Bethany, had published on the Christian Writers Institute. It's done quite well. What I try to do in that book is I try to tell everything I know and have learned about ghostwriting and give them examples of it. I had lunch just yesterday with a man that I had mentored over the last 12, 13 years. He's now doing ghostwriting and doing it really well. And he said, he showed me a copy of Ghostwriting, which came out not quite a year ago. Practically every page is marked on it. So he invited me to lunch, came into town, invited me to lunch just so he could thank me for that, which was really nice.
That is nice.
What I want to make is this. A lot of people inquire about being a ghostwriter, but it's a very specialized kind of writing ministry, and not everybody can do it. I want to keep saying, anybody can get the facts, the information, the data, but the real test is when you get inside the head and heart of the other. Give me an example. Years ago, I read the Reba McEntire autobiography. When I finished that book, I knew everything she'd done, but I had no idea who Reba McEntire was.
Right.
By contrast, Sally Jenkins, who's a female sports writer, wrote the Lance Armstrong books, and she didn't know he cheated. And I want to tell you, there was something about, she just got into his heart. I knew Lance Armstrong. By the way, the person calls, it's not about the bike, and I'm not a biker, but I just like her writing. And I thought when I read that book, I thought, I don't like this man very much. I think I'd enjoy conversation, but I would not invite him to dinner. The second book called Every Second Counts, I said, okay, he'd come to dinner, but he can't spend the night. This is long before the scandal came out. But the point is that even though she liked the man and she was sympathetic, she wrote in such a way that I felt I understood him. And there are things about him that I just felt not my kind of person. And ghostwriter has to be able to do that.
Yes, yes. Now, you mentioned your book on ghostwriting. Can you mention that again, and any other books that people could use to learn how to ghostwrite, or maybe websites?
Well, first, the book is called Ghostwriting, the Murphy Method.
The Murphy Method.
And you get it on Amazon. I've written 2 other books on writing. One's called Unleash the Writer Within. And
oh, it's good. Yeah.
a lot of people say, oh, I know that, but they don't. What I'm trying to do is talk about motivation. And, for instance, one of the things I emphasize there is a conceit in writing. Think about it for a minute. If you don't think you have something to say, something no one else has said, you don't want to be a writer. Statistical. That's part of who we are. And those are the traits in us that God uses. So the second book is called Unleash the Writer Within. The third one is called Writer to Writer. I have a blog, weekly blog, that's been going since 2010. I used to do it twice a week, but now I'm getting lazy, so now it's once a week. But, excuse me, called Cease, Writer to Writer.
Mm-hmm.
And you can find it on the internet. And every week I try to do something to help people learn to write. I did a whole series a few years ago on ghostwriting. But one thing I do is every entry contains less than 400 words. So,
Right.
So, because people want to read on the go. So, for instance, when I did a ghostwriting, I don't remember exactly, but I think I did it in 12 parts.
Mm.
They got snippets each time. I have people contact me all the time. I've got a file that I save your.
Yes.
Always very flattering. But yeah, and you could go online and you can find a lot about ghostwriting, but I don't. One of the reasons I finally wrote the book is I couldn't find any book that told me how to do it, how to make money at it, tell me various things, but none of them ever told me how to get inside the heart and the mind of it, which is perhaps quite subjective, but that's my emphasis. I also wanted it to be practical, like how much do you charge? What if you don't like the person? Those kinds of questions.
I want to reiterate about your Writer to Writer book. You generously gave those away at your Writer to Writer conferences, and that book is my go-to book. I love it. I love that you only have 400 words on a page, and it's like taking a nugget and chewing on it all day and learning one thing about writing. And I know like your point of view has like 13 or 16 chapters. I love it, Cece. Thank you. Thank you for.
The difference between the blog and the book, though, is some of the chapters in the book are longer. They run about 1,500 words to 2,000. But the blog is only 400 words. But I like to write briefly, get in, get out, go on to do something.
Now, if somebody wants to learn, what's the difference between like ghostwriting and doing a biography?
All right, biography is third person. He, she, they, kind of. And ghostwriting is really autobiographical if it's a personal story. Now, I've done ghostwriting for people on other topics. I've written a couple books I wrote a book on suicide prevention. I worked with a pharmacologist and did 5 books with him. I've never been on a diet, but I've written 3 diet books.
You don't have to be. You're an avid runner.
I'm an avid runner. I also ghosted a couple of books for runners. I'm sorry, I got sidetracked. What was your question?
No, you answered it. Can you ghostwrite a fiction book? Can you take somebody's story and write it for them?
I think it's okay. Dr. Michael Youssef, the senior pastor of Church of the Apostles in Atlanta.
Oh, I love Dr. Youssef. Yes, he's a great teacher.
I was his ghostwriter back in the days when he started the church.
Wow.
Somewhere in the late 80s. And I love the guy. And I think I did 8 or 9 books. The first 2 were novels, in-time novels. He didn't like the kind of novels that are coming out about the end time because they were all kind of guesswork. And so we did one called The King of the Earth. I forgot what the other one was called. And it was a great experience. The point of ghostwriting is this. The other person has the material, the data. The ghostwriter takes it and makes it palatable, makes it so that people can understand it and can draw people inside. That's it. So it's fiction or nonfiction. You'd be amazed how many novels go through it. James Patterson now is using co-writers, but the word I hear is that originally they were all ghostwriters. Now he's giving them credit.
Well, and so what would be the difference between writing ghostwriting fiction and nonfiction? I mean, you don't have to get inside the person's head as much with fiction, I wouldn't assume, but what would be some of the differences?
Well, I think it's a different technique. It's like the difference between watercolor and sculpture. I happen to love fiction. I read probably 3 novels for every nonfiction book I read. So I'm very well acquainted, and I really love fiction. And today's writers of nonfiction books have to understand fictional techniques.
Mm-hmm.
Because today, people want stories. In the old days, 20, 30 years ago, you could only write nonfiction by answering facts that could actually be ascertained. You could never have direct dialogue unless you could record it. Now, I did a book with a guy named Norman Vaughn who went to Antarctica in 1928 to 1930 with Admiral Byrd. A couple of years ago that way. He died in 2005 at age 100. Now, he's telling me things that happened when he was 23 years old and he was in his 90s then. And do you think he remembered exactly word for word? No, of course. So here's what you do with nonfiction. As long as you get the feel for it, and people, I think, understand, these are not always literal, but you try to catch the flavor of it.
Mm-hmm.
And good fiction, good nonfiction, good writing today means the ability to tell a story and to withhold the key element till the end.
That's really good advice, Cece, because I know I've spoken with some writers, and if they can't get the exact verbiage that was used, they don't feel like they can write the story. And I've told them, I said, because I've sat under your teaching before and you have expounded on that, and I told them, well, Cecil Murphey, the best-selling author, has said, if you can grasp the feeling of the story, you don't have to get it word for word, letter for letter. So that's awesome advice, because it trips authors up sometimes if they can't get it exactly.
Yeah, okay. Now, you and I have been talking, and I know you've memorized every single word I've spoken, right?
No.
Okay, you get the idea.
Yeah.
But when this is over and you think about it, you have a feeling about how the relationship went, and you'll remember snippets.
Yes.
And autobiography is always very subjective.
Mm-hmm.
And one of the things that I try to say in every autobiography, this is the way I remember. For instance, I did a book 2 years ago called Stolen. It's a true story of a woman who's in sex trafficking and got out. But she had to mention some real names, tell some strong stories. And particularly her ex-husband, who, after she got out of sex trafficking, married, he was physically abusive. So the publisher gave me some problems, and I said, wait, you have the right to tell your story. You always have that right. What you don't have the right is to say, this is exactly how it is. So what we did several times, she would say things like, this is how I remember, or as I understood it. So it's very subjective story, and nobody's ever complained about it. And their lawyers said, yes, Cecil's right. So I got away with it.
The lawyers even agree, so it's final.
Yeah, so it's been in print, and I think it's enhanced the quality of the story, because I could tell some of the things this man and others, tell some of the awful things they did. But it's always, this is how I interpret it, this is how I saw it, this is how I remember it. Because we know that the memory is kind of funny. If you tell your story, your conversion story, you tell it neatly afterwards, it's raw and all of, wonderful. 10 years later, you get very theological in telling your story, and you didn't know any theology at the time.
Yeah, that's true.
It works.
I didn't even notice that, but that is so true. Well, we have a few more minutes. Do you have any parting words of wisdom for anybody who wants to start ghostwriting?
Who wants to start what?
Ghostwriting.
Yeah, I think you need to look at your own heart. Yeah, do you care enough about people to really know their heart? Then I think you can start doing profiles, like personal experience stories. Guidepost is totally ghostwritten, by the way. You got a handful of editors, and even if it's got somebody else's name on them, they're ghosted by their select writers. That's just everybody pretty well knows that. So you can start working with people, and in the beginning, you just put their name. Here's a celebrity's name, like Don Piper with Cecil Murphey. And the with says to readers who know what's going on. With means I did the writing, he did the living, dying. That's a good way to get started. And find out if you can do this. And a good way is find these magazines that want personal experience stories. Unless you're going to do something like book on, got somebody who wants to write on depression and you tell it, or something like that. But you still need to be able to stay with that person's ideas. One thing you don't want to do is to be corrective. If you can't agree with them, shut up. Don't write. To be honest with you, I've had differences with people I've written for, but unless there's serious theological issues, not my business to correct them. What if I'm wrong? I've been wrong a few times. Haven't you?
Right.
So, we can have all kinds of ways of interpreting scripture, but unless it's something that really goes totally against me, that's their interpretation, and I'm writing from their perspective.
Right, because it's their story, you're writing it.
Or their sermon, their teaching, whatever it is.
Now, which ghost story, well, it's not a ghost story, but which story that you've ghost written has touched you the most?
Oh, they all do, honestly. They really do. Because I feel like a psychiatrist or a therapist. I'm there, and they're pouring out their heart, and I'm touched. I've learned a lot about life and living just by hearing these people. And that's like asking, tell me the name of your favorite child.
That's true.
I love them for different reasons.
The one that's well behaved at the time.
I could, any book I've done, I can tell you beautiful experiences from them, and made them memorable. And I've had one or two that I haven't liked very much by the time we got to the end, but that's another issue. But I've liked them, if I don't like them, see, let me just give you one more thing. When I pick on a contract with somebody, the first thing I have to do is I have to meet them face to face. Even this wouldn't work. I want to meet them face to face. If they have to travel to see me or pay me to come and see them, okay. But I won't begin working with them until I like them. Years ago, I got a contract with Thomas Nelson. I kept telling them, yes, I need to meet this man, and everything kept interfering. So finally, it was too late to meet him beforehand. So I went. He lived north of Nashville, which was only about 5-hour drive for me. And I walked in the house. Within 5 minutes, I said to myself, I don't like this man. This won't work. But so, being me, I can do everything. So I started writing. I worked so hard to try to please this man, and I knew it wouldn't go. Guess what? He hated me.
Mm-hmm.
He got somebody else, and the book failed. Now, I don't get any joy out of that. I just know that our personalities were such that I knew I couldn't really relate to this man. If I'd met him in advance, I would turn him down. One final word. I am not looking for work.
That's what I was just going to say. Now, what's going on with you now? And if somebody wants to get a hold of you just to say hi, because I know you're not looking for work.
Go to my website. You can get to me there. People have specific questions. I'm glad to answer. Please don't ask me, how do I become a ghostwriter? By the way, I'm very cautious about this, but I do mentor writers. They have to pay for it, and they can contact me about it. If people are serious about writing and want to work, and I work them hard. And it takes about 5 months before they get to my tough stuff. But when I've just finished working with, she had a contract with her book before we finished about the 9th lesson.
Wow.
But see, I work purely from their material. I don't have a set program. It's all one-to-one, and it's too complicated to take time to talk about now. But I'm moving into retirement. I'm just taking a few little jobs here and there that interest me. That's it. Well,
God bless you, Cece. So they can go through your website. It's cecewritertowriter.com.
No, just Google my name and my website.
Yeah, and they'll find you.
Or they can do cec.murp, cec.murp@comcast.net. That's simple, easy to remember.
Well, Cease, thank you so much. I learned so much about ghostwriting, and I just want to thank you for being on, and may God bless you during your time of retirement. I'm Sherry Lynn Bisbano. You've been listening to Genre Chat.